In this video, we're going to be breaking down how to create your own Cal.com integrated voice AI system using Vapi, N8N, Cal.com to actually grab user information during a call and natively create your own Cal.com bookings, send emails to the user, all in one workflow. So if that's something you're excited in, please do stick around to the end of the video and let's get into it. All right, beautiful. So let's get into the flow. But before we tackle this beast, I want to quickly go over the logic in case no one's seen it before. It's more or less the same as my previous videos, except this time we're using Cal.com integration instead of Google. So first of all, we start by calling the agent. It redirects us to the Vapi voice agent that we've configured. Talk to it, ask it for some times, check to see if that time is within the hours, and then obviously check to see if it's actually available. Confirm the time, date, and reasoning of booking. We actually don't need the reason of booking because this is mainly going to be used for a discovery call. Then we apply some N8N backend automation from a tool call to actually check with Cal.com to see if that time is available for us or if there's already been a booking in place. So we check to see if the time is available using Cal.com. If the time is not available, we request the user to make a booking at a different time. And if it is available, great. We basically check any times around that slot. So for example, if the user wants 3 p.m., we'll basically check for the 3 closest available times. Be like, hey, we have 3 p.m., 3:15, 3:30, which one works best for you? And that is natively checked through Cal.com using a bunch of HTTP requests. And then that info is put inside of a CRM, in this case, Airtable, just in case anyone wants to view it. And then we also email it to myself in this case. And then of course we return the booking result to the user. So with that being said, let's jump straight into the Cal.com configuration. First, actually, I want to jump into the Vapi. The Vapi is more or less the same, exact same Vapi procedure, except this time I've cut out the fluff of asking for the reasoning of the booking. I got rid of that because there's honestly no point if you're going to do a discovery call. It's pretty obvious. And then I also mentioned down below that make sure that if there is availability based on the results of the tool call that you mention all available times. Do not say the time is unavailable because sometimes what was happening with the Vapi agent was you would give it a time, let's say 3 p.m. And then in the tool call result, it would say that 3 p.m. was available, but then Vapi would say it's not available. So it was just giving wrong information. So I basically put this in to say, hey, if the tool call result says that the time is available, tell the user the time is available. Don't say it's not. So that's done. And then another thing I wanted to show you guys real quick is obviously the advanced section. Don't copy the server URL. I'm going to change it. In fact, I'm probably going to get rid of it. But client messages is conversational update, function call result, hang, metadata, speech update, transcript, transfer update. And then for server messages, we have end of call report, function call, hang, status update. That's all you need. And that's pretty much the Vapi configuration. Pretty straightforward, pretty standard stuff. So let's get into the actual flow. So let's start off from the very beginning. And to make this even easier, I actually did do an execution beforehand so we can actually see this flow in action. So real quick, there's two aspects to this flow. There's the flow during the actual call, which is the tool call. So actually checking if the time that the user requested is available. And then there's also a post-call analysis, which is basically the second branch. So this top branch is basically the flow that's going to happen during the conversation to check if there is availability. And then this one is our post-call analysis. And we'll be breaking down what actually happens inside of each of these in a second. So we have our webhook. Basically, I was playing around with it. I was like, hey, can you do a time for tomorrow at 3 p.m.? And let's actually go into it. This is more or less the same structure as my previous videos where we basically grab the transcript. So in this case, there were 13 different conversations that happened or 13 different dialects that happened. So we basically grabbed the transcript from this absolutely massive webhook. We take the last 10 messages because those are probably the most reliant to us. In fact, honestly, I might change this to 20, to be honest. I might change that to 20, just because in this case, there were 13 items, so I might just keep 20. To be honest, I'd probably just get rid of this. You don't actually need it. But just for the purposes of the video, I'm just going to keep it as is. So we'll just change that to 20. Awesome. So all the items in a bundle. So basically, we take all of these items. So there's role, content, tool calls, yada, yada. We basically take all of this and we only want the role and the content. So in this case, role, content, awesome. And then obviously there's a tool call as well here, which happened in the 11th dialect. Cool, that's awesome. And then here, if this is a tool call or a post call analysis. So this is a switch module, which basically checks if the webhook response is either a tool call or a post call. In this case, it was a tool call. So what's going to happen is if I click this, it'll route to the top here, which is what we expect. Now this AI agent basically checks availability through cal.com and returns all results for a specific time. Now, you've probably noticed during this flow that there's actually no cal.com nodes. And why is that? Well, if we go into an N8N instance, for example, here's one I just pulled up, right? Let's say you're just starting out with N8N, you got your flow here, pretty cute. Obviously, we're going to need a webhook because that's how we're going to transfer the data from Vapi. And then from here, you'd expect to put in a cal.com node, right? So you'd expect to put here a check availability cal.com node. If I type cal.com, you'll see that there is already some built-in functions or built-in nodes for cal.com. But if we actually click it, we see that there are only 4 trigger nodes that are actually available for cal.com. And basically what a trigger node is, it's basically your starting point. So if there's ever a booking that's canceled, if there's ever a booking that's created, rescheduled, or the meeting has ended, this will trigger. However, we're looking to actually implement action nodes. So what is an action node? An action node is basically an action that performs a step once your workflow is already started. So in this case, we want an action node to check the availability of cal.com once this webhook triggers. But that doesn't exist, right? That doesn't exist inside of N8N just yet. So the way that we combat this is we basically make a HTTP request to the cal.com server to actually check our booking. Now, if anyone hasn't actually checked out cal.com before, if we type cal.com, it's basically a really good way to schedule your meetings. And they have a really nice documentation for their APIs. You can see here, you can read through this if you want, but there is a lot of documentation here. And the one that we're trying to grab is we're trying to get, I believe it was get all bookings. So this is the request we're trying to make to the server, is to say, hey, based on this event ID and based on, I guess, the time that the user wants, do we actually have that spot available? So if I go back to the flow, we'll see here that this basically checks the availability. It takes in the text from the transcript, I guess. And then this is the system prompt we've given it. So it's got a role, it's got a task, it's got specifics, context, examples, notes, and then the current day and the user's phone number. And basically what this does is it will check to see the transcript. It'll pick out the name, the date, the email, if possible. Actually, I don't think it does email. It'll check the phone number, and let's just test it. So this will basically check the availability. Then what happens is it calls a child agent to create that user info inside of a CRM, inside of Airtable in this case. So this is finished triggering. I actually have an Airtable here, which basically stores all of that information. So you can see the name was Ali, the date of the booking was today, and the time of the booking was 3 p.m. Phone number, time change, none. So this is in case the user is calling back and wants to change the time. And then this is the transcripts. Awesome, right? So what happens is this agent checks the availability. So we basically make a HTTP request to cal.com for the availability, gets all the availability in my calendar for a specific time requested by the user. And then I basically have my event ID in here. Please don't take this event ID. I will be changing it. And that's pretty much all you need. There's no authorization needed. You also need to put in some query parameters. If this is all confusing, by the way, don't worry. I'm going to have a dedicated video on HTTP requests and webhooks and stuff. But for the most part, basically, this HTTP request requires us to put in some variables to actually figure out if we are available. So in this case, we basically need to give it a start time and an end time for our booking, right? So cal.com can actually check, hey, are we available in this time? And in this case, it looks like we were available because it gives us some slots for that time period. Please don't take my credits. I'm going to be deleting this anyway, so don't do that. But I don't want to go too much into this just because it is a little confusing if you've never seen this before, but that's pretty much how you would make a cal.com HTTP request for your availability. Then what happens here is we basically call a child agent to basically extract all the key content from that transcript and put it inside of a CRM, right? So expert in extracting user details from conversations for CRM systems, in this case Airtable, and it's done it pretty well. I'm not going to go into the flow for this. That's going to be a later video because this one will already be way too long. But basically, what does the thing say? I'm sorry, but it seems that you've already booked a schedule at 3 p.m. However, I do have availability at 3 p.m. Oh, it's because I was testing it and I actually already have a cal.com booking available. So if we go to the app real quick, go to availability, not availability. So let's go to bookings. I already did a booking here. So let's cancel this booking real quick. Hopefully that works. Cancel the booking. Awesome, booking's been canceled. Let's go back in the CRM and just pretend this never happened. Awesome. So let's test this step again. Test again. As soon as we know available slots tomorrow, interesting. Okay, let's try running this again. Looks like we already have our webhook triggered. So let's try running this again. Awesome. So it's checking availability. AI agents were available at this time. Let's store this user information inside of CRM. Brilliant. And now what it'll do is it basically outputs there seems to be availability at 3, 3:15, and 3:30 tomorrow, which time works best for you, which is true. We just deleted our booking at 3 p.m. tomorrow because I was testing. So yeah, we are available at that time, and the AI agent basically recognizes that. Now, this is really interesting. We have some code modules, and the reason I wanted to do code modules is because this is all happening during the call. This is all happening during the call. Granted, you could replace these code blocks if it is a little scary, a little daunting, with AI agents to basically pass the transcript for you, to basically check if it's available for you. But that takes time. That takes a lot of time. And when you're constantly adding more and more AI agents during the conversation, it'll take longer for the voice agent to be able to produce a response for you on that call. These code blocks are instant. If I click this, that was instant. If I had to run that through an AI agent like this one, it would take 10 seconds, right? Just to pass the transcript. But this is super easy. I just went onto DeepSeek and basically asked it to create me some JavaScript to pass a transcript into a format that's readable by the AI and also the Airtable. Super easy stuff. You don't need to know coding for this. You just need to know what you want. Then we add that pass transcript into Airtable. So for some reason, the way that the transcript is formatted from this webhook doesn't actually work with Airtable. So we have to pass the transcript into a format that's readable by Airtable in order to actually include it. Right? So in this case, we add the transcript or the passed transcript. So now if I go back into Airtable, you see that it's basically gives a role, a task, and then it gives the transcript, which is awesome. Next, we run another code block to basically check availability. So the way that I've prompted this AI agent is if there is availability, it will always start with the sentence, there seems to be availability. If it's not available, it won't start with this. So if there is availability, the AI agent will basically say there seems to be availability. And if that matches with this code block, we'll basically output the system as available. And if it doesn't, it's not available. It's just code. You could replace this with an AI, but that takes time. And the way I've configured this is super quick, super snappy, to the point where it's basically instant. And the output is available, which makes sense. Then this is just a simple webhook response. So if it's available, we basically send back a response saying that it's available. And if it's not available, we just send back a static message saying, I'm sorry, but we don't have availability at that time. So that is basically the flow. If I want to, I might actually go back into here and might just click on this. So this is basically the child agent that creates the user inside the CRM. I'm not going to go too much into this because there's another child agent. This is going to be a separate video, but that's basically what's happening here is we check to see if the user exists. If they exist, we go to this update info. If they don't exist at all, we just create a new user. And then of course, if they want to make an update or cancel, we basically call another child agent. Which is what I love about these AI agents is this is an actual use case of an AI agent, which is performing multiple tasks simultaneously, which is awesome. Now, that is basically what happens during the call is user asks for availability in the transcript, AI agent checks the availability, we pass the transcript, we check if it's available, and then we return back our response. Excellent. Now what happens when we finish the call? So one of these was my post-call analysis. I might have to do this during the actual call itself, but basically what happens down here is we have another switch, obviously, for the end of call result. And what happens here is we check that Airtable for the transcript, right? Because we passed this transcript earlier on during the call. And now we want to basically use that as context for the AI agent to figure out, hey, what time did these guys decide on? so that I can send an email and create a cal.com booking. And we filter it by the phone number so that we actually get the right person. And by the way, this happens after the call, so this will trigger after the call. This one's really cool. So this is an email analyzer. So during the call, the AI agent will ask you for the email because we need your email in order to actually create the cal.com booking. I tried doing this a different way. It doesn't work. You need the email. And the thing with these voice AIs is it's really finicky at grabbing the email properly, right? For example, my email is amoha11033@gmail.com. The AI agent can struggle most times to actually pass that properly. But with this specific email analyzer, basically we grab the transcript from that Airtable, and the message we want to give it is extract and normalize the email address from the following content. So it'll basically have an email and then the reference email. Those emails have been provided via speech to text. Consider this while normalizing, as they contain extras such as filler words. If no email is found, return empty JSON. Anytime there is an O in between a group of numbers, assume it is the number O. This is very important because sometimes when you're giving out numbers inside of your email, if you say O, let's say 11033, it'll actually give you the letter O as opposed to the number O. And no one has a letter in between numbers, so that is why that's there. And then return JSON's plaintext. And then the model we use is we actually use DeepSeek R1. If you don't know what DeepSeek is, I highly recommend you check it out. It's an open source Chinese company that has basically made a better AI model than OpenAI. And I've been using it quite extensively to do all of my work. As you can see, it's really damn good and it's completely free and it's awesome. So we use DeepSeek R1 because it is the most efficient and effective model. And I've had great success using this. There's tons of tutorials online on how to actually connect to DeepSeek, your N8N instance. But basically, once we get the email, we then go to the AI agent. And this AI agent basically just reads the transcript, and then it's pretty simple. It's just summarize the input text provided, such as the details, name of the user, date that they're booking. And then we basically just send an email. This is basically just an email that's sent to me. And we just use a simple 4.0 mini for that one. Then here, this one's really important. So we're going to come to this in a bit, but here's the actual HTTP request to create the booking. So now we're actually creating the booking using a call from cal.com. So if we go back to the cal.com docs, what we're doing here is we're basically making a post request to create a booking. And there are certain parameters that we need. We need the cal API version, which is given to you. And we need the event ID, the start. I'll actually just show you. So we're making a post request to create a booking. Awesome. API key, please don't take it. The cal API version. And then this is the JSON body that is expected in order to make that booking. And you can see here that there are a lot of fields that are required. We need the name of the user, which is why we grabbed the name earlier. We need the email of the user, which is why we had this email analyzer and then actually returning the email in this code. We then have the phone number, which is just from the Airtable. The event ID, this is static because it's just your event. Please don't take this. Start time as well. So I believe this one should just be taken from the code. But yeah, those are all the parameters that you need to actually make a booking through a HTTP request. And like I said, if this is confusing, please don't worry. I'm going to make a full video dedicated to Postman, HTTP requests, how to actually understand authorization, query parameters, because it is really powerful that you understand this in order to make these type of tools that aren't natively integrated. So we basically just return a JSON body, then we send it and it creates a booking. Now going back to this code actually doesn't return an email. It returns quite a few things. It returns name, email, phone number, and start date. So this code is awesome. Basically, I just went back into DeepSeek and I asked it to extract the name, the phone number, the email, and the start time based on the outputs of this AI agent. And it's really damn cool. It's really damn cool. Awesome. Now that we've gone through a high-level overview of this flow, let's actually test it in person and then go through it in a bit more detail.
How can I help?
Hey, can I make a booking, please?
Of course. May I have your name, please?
Ali, A-L-I.
Thank you, Elise. Could you please provide me with the date and time that you'd like to make the booking?
Let's do tomorrow at 3 p.m.
Great. Could you please provide your email address? Please make sure to spell it out.
amoha11033@gmail.com.
Please. Just to confirm, you would like to make a booking for tomorrow at 3 p.m. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Hold on a sec. Sorry, a few more seconds.
You're all good.
Sorry, a few more seconds. Thank you for your patience. I've now created the booking for you. I will look forward to seeing you tomorrow at 3 p.m. Have a great day.
All right, you too. See ya. Awesome. So that was the flow during the call. And now we'll basically go into the post-call analysis, analyze the email from that transcript in our Airtable. So you got to give it a second. DeepSeek does take a while to do this, but that's fine because this is post-call. So this isn't during the call, which is awesome. So it can take as long as it wants. As long as it's correct during the post-call, that's all that matters. We're not really looking for speed here. We're looking for accuracy. So DeepSeek R1 does enhanced reasoning, which is why it takes a long time, but eventually it'll work. And then it'll send that information or that transcript information to the AI agent to create an email for me, just so I can get a heads up. And then we basically use this code to extract all the variables needed in order to create this booking. Beautiful. So any second now, I should be getting an email. Beautiful. I just got an email. You probably can't read that, but it says I got an email, which is awesome. And if we go into, yep, there we go. There it is. So then there's the cal.com booking. And then even if I go into cal.com itself, if I go to bookings, you'll see there is a booking for tomorrow at 3 to 3:15. Awesome. Name's Elise, which is not right, but it's fine. Let's go through these flows real quick. So we can actually go back to our executions, which is just these two, which is awesome. Code editor, boom. So this is basically the transcripts. This is during the call. So the AI agent basically takes in that transcript. It checks for our availability. It then creates the user inside of the CRM, which it has done here very nicely. And then it outputs, there seems to be availability at 3, 3:15, 3:30 tomorrow, which time works best for you. Then this code. This code basically passes that transcript. And that transcript, I believe, was from here. So it's basically this entire block was basically put in here. And that basically passes it for the Airtable. Then we add that transcript into the relevant Airtable row for that phone number. Then this code basically reads this output to see if it starts with there seems to be availability. And then it outputs available, which in this case, it's true. Then this switch node basically checks if this output is available or not. And in this case it was, which in this case we make a return. Awesome. So that's what happens during the tool call. And then the post call, which I didn't show you, basically transcript, same thing. In this case, the transcript doesn't really exist in this case. So that's why we have this Airtable, because if you saw during the call, we had to trigger this webhook again after the tool call. And that would basically read all of the transcript data after the tool call, which doesn't contain important information such as the email, the date, the name, because we did that initially. So in this case, what we're doing here is we're basically grabbing that information from the Airtable as context to feed to this AI agent to actually create that booking for us. That's probably the easiest way I've figured out to do it. Otherwise, if you make this post-call webhook response, it's going to have 2 to 3 lines of conversation, right? It doesn't have context because that was all during the tool call phase. So we basically grab the transcript from here, so the AI has some context as to what actually happened. And oh, by the way, the transcript gets updated every single time it makes the tool call. So even if there wasn't a time that was available, eventually once you do reach a time that is available, it'll just update the transcript. So this email analyzer, this is really cool. So this was the text. Sorry, that's not the text. Basically, we took this entire text block. So you can see here, here's my email. This is the email that was transcribed by the voice agent, right? It looks awful. And then this prompt combined with DeepSeek R1 was able to give us the correct email. So this is my email. This is correct, which is awesome, right? So basically we store that info and then we go to this AI agent. So basically this grabs their name, the date for the actual booking that they wanted, the time for the booking, and then their phone number. And then it just sends an email to me, which you saw earlier. Then this code, now I can actually show you what this code does. So this code basically takes this output and separates each of the variables based on the comma. This is the logic that I've implemented. You could obviously make it different, but I've made it so that, hey, every time there's a comma, just split the text into its own object. So in this case, we have the extracted values, which is the name, date, time, phone number, and then this email is basically taken from this email analyzer. And we basically ask it to just pass the email, which is awesome. I love this. This is so cool. Then we use all of this info inside of this HTTP request to create the booking. So as you can see here, we basically grab the name, we grab the email, we grab the phone number, and we grab the start time. So that's how that works. And I think this is awesome. I think this is an awesome flow. This is pretty much how you create cal.com integrations using N8N, Vapi, and I guess that's it, N8N, Vapi, and cal.com. So if you enjoyed this video, please do consider liking and subscribing. This is a really fun one to do. I'm not going to give out the template for this video just because I want to make a future video on these child agents so that you guys understand it better. But I think for now, this kind of gives you an idea of how you would structure your flow if you were doing appointment setting using cal.com or Calendly. So as always, leave a comment down below if you want to see more of this type of stuff, and feel free to, you actually can't book a call because by the time you're seeing this, I'm on holiday. So if there is an important inquiry that you want to make, just shoot me an email. But thank you so much for watching, and let me know if it made sense. But have a great rest of the day.